Several men in black robes are lined up in a stormy night. Someone asked if there's anyone there. A puddle of water had formed from the continuous rain. There was a dirty child standing under the rain. He stood before the men in black robes. The way they just stand there is unnerving. A man with red eyes watched the boy intently while thinking how there's someone living in the shut-down Martial Academy. He called the boy a young warrior and asked permission if they could spend the night there to avoid the rain. The boy observed them. He's wondering who those people are. It's surprising to him that they are greeting him politely, even though he's just a kid. He thought that maybe those people saw him as a young Taoist guarding the shut-down academy. He greeted them back as he thought that maybe they aren't bad people. He replied that he just also settled in the closed academy just a few years ago, so the men can also stay wherever they want. However, he pointed out the pavilion that he's using and told them to use other places aside from that. The men thanked the young warrior for his hospitality. The leader of the men instructed everyone not to go near the young warrior's pavilion and take shelter in other places. He asked if they understood, and everyone replied, yes. They went to find their space. The boy read the word on their robe. It says Tang. He wondered if they are all from the same clan. He's curious about what kind of people they are, but he has more important things to do now. He entered his pavilion. He's busy because it's dinner time for the kids. The serious mood was then changed as we saw the boy was delighted. This right here is our main protagonist, which I bet you'll love. Back to the recap. He excitedly called everyone to eat. There was a large pot container. He happily opened the lid, and there was a small brown cricket-like insect inside. The boy uttered that he was almost late, so those insects must be starving. He opened another pot. It contains this cute large spider called black earth tiger, the tarantula native to Hainan, China. It's a large species that grows up to 20 centimeters, and its unique stripes are reminiscent of a black tiger. Using a chopstick, he grabbed an insect to feed to Black. While feeding him, he uttered how he couldn't imagine surviving if those guys hadn't been there. Black chomped on the insect. The boy was pleased with its reaction. He's fascinated that this guy, who was about the size of a fingernail, has already shed his shell twice and grown like that. He is so happy Black has gotten his fill. The next one is, the boy opened a drawer. It revealed an orange lizard with white stripes. It is a bewangling cave gecko. Likewise, this native species is characterized by stripes on the body and tail. The boy uttered that it was so hard to get it because he had no money in his previous life. But if he goes outside now, he can find them everywhere. His life was filled with fun watching them. He fed the gecko and got bitten. As he yelled loudly, he swung his fingers to shake it off, but it remained biting. This moment also reminded RMC about what happened to him before all of these things. So before this person came into that body, he was a streamer with a whooping 1 million subscribers. He is a professional biologist called Spicy Fabry. His main content was venomous insects and venomous animals. The problem was the live broadcast he held to celebrate reaching 1 million subscribers. The 10 most dangerous vipers in the world. Among them, the most dangerous one, the black mamba, was considered to be the most aggressive, and the trip to Africa to find it was the death of him. He told his viewers that he doesn't have it and it's not easy to find. He decided to take a break and go look for it again. The viewers told him that they will wait for him. He was so tired that he couldn't find it. On the chat, the people are worried that it's in his house and he could get bitten. The black mamba that he couldn't find, no matter how hard he looked for it, was curled up on top of the refrigerator. He was bitten in an instant while on live TV, and immediately our boy died. And now, back to the present time, he pouted, thinking that it happened after he put effort into looking for it. Meanwhile, the elderly man in black robes stood outside the pavilion door. He knocked and called for the young warrior. Our MC opened the door and asked if there's something wrong. The man replied that he would like to thank him for giving them shelter in the rain. He invited him to have dinner together, since they caught a deer. Hearing that made the boy excited. He liked meat. All this time, the only meat he could eat was snakes and lizards. He happily accepted the invitation and went where others were. They set up a bonfire. They were gathered around it as they watched the deer be cooked. The elder man saw how the boy was drooling at the sight of it. He told the boy that the deer will take time to cook. In the meantime, he asked if it's okay to ask a few questions. The boy felt embarrassed being caught staring at the deer for too long. He allowed the elder to ask questions. He inquired if the boy is living alone and his age. The boy wasn't sure if he's 14 or 15. The boy decided to make up a story, like he accidentally hit his head when he was a child. That's why he doesn't remember much. The elder asked him if he's staying there by himself. He replied yes, since he doesn't have any talent. He just catches snakes and sells their skins to make a living. The elder couldn't believe that he's doing such a dangerous thing. He replied that he's used to it. Someone brought them the cooked part so they could eat first. An old man uttered that the young warrior must have been hungry. He thanked the elder. The boy uttered that it has been a long time since he had meat. He chomped on the meat and looked really happy. In his mind, he thought this is happiness. The older men happily watched him. They told the boy to listen while he eats. The elder revealed that they were looking for something and asked the boy if he had seen anything strange. The elder debated if he could say it. The white-haired elder told the patriarch that since they owe the young warrior, it might be all right to tell him. And since the boy might not know it, there's no chance he would get into trouble. And since he lives alone, he won't tell anyone. The patriarch agreed with his father. He started saying it. They have come to find a centipede with a blue spot on its body. The boy was surprised to hear that. They call it the blue spot centipede. It's big, so they thought the boy might have seen it. The boy asked how big it was. The patriarch replied that if it's an adult, it can easily swallow someone as big as the young warrior. The boy turned pale upon hearing about a centipede so big that it can swallow a person. The boy thought that his thinking that he just went back a few 100 years might be wrong since he could be in a different world. The white-haired man told him not to worry since they are about to catch that thing. The boy asked if they're trying to catch it and raise it. The elders were confused about the raising part. The white-haired elder was amused. Eventually, he belted out a loud laugh. They found the idea of raising a blue spot centipede amusing. The patriarch commented that the young warrior was so funny. The white-haired elder replied that there's no way they could raise it. They planned to use it as medicine. The boy was confused because he thought that they were traders, but now he's thinking that they might be drug dealers. He asked how centipedes could be used as medicine. The white-haired man replied that his granddaughter is lying in bed with a serious illness. The inner core of that centipede is the only thing that can save his granddaughter, so they're trying to find it. The boy was trying to put the pieces together, and the patriarch confirmed his suspicion. The granddaughter of the white-haired elder is his daughter. To the boy, it looked like they were trying to feed the girl anything, since she's on the verge of death. He doesn't think that centipedes could be used as medicine, but there's nothing parents can't do for their children. Although he felt bad for the centipede, since those men treated him to meat, he decided to help them. He started talking about the centipede, and the patriarch immediately asked if he had seen it. He replied no, but he added that although he doesn't know what a blue spot centipede is, he might have an idea where they can find it. Although Spicy Fabberry died from a snake bite, he's more confident than anyone else in terms of venomous animals. Among the approximately 8.7 million species, about 20,000 species are known to be venomous, and he has each and every one of them in his head. And of course, these centipedes aren't an exception. When it comes to venomous animals, everything is in the palm of Spicy Faber's hand. He actually is a walking encyclopedia of centipedes. RMC recalled all of his knowledge about centipedes, and it was as if he was literally opening a book. He then scanned the pages, and after a few seconds, he eventually closed it. He found what he's looking for. Again, that was just all representation in his head. Back to the present time, he told the elders that he might know where to find it. These guys were startled and asked where. RMC thought about it. He asked about the areas that the elders have already searched. They searched to the north and east from the academy, mainly during the day, and they focused on the riverside in the north. The boy wasn't surprised why they couldn't find it. He told them, of course you couldn't find it. The elder asked what he meant. They asked him to tell them. Centipedes belong to the arthropod phylum and the Chilopodoclus. So, they have a wide range of territory, and being cold-blooded, they need shelter for regulation of temperature and humidity. Another interesting fact is that, unlike most insects with a waterproof layer, centipedes have weak waterproofing and pores on their shells, so they don't actually prefer wet places. It's an animal that needs high humidity but dislikes wet places yet it can't survive long without water. So, the blue spot centipede is less likely to be found in jungles or by the river. The elders couldn't believe it. He thought centipedes preferred places like rottenwood cracks. The boy informed them that they could see small ones in there, but they were looking for a big one. For big ones, they can't stay in the jungle or rocks by the river because that way they can't hide. The elders looked at each other and nodded their heads as a non-verbal communication. They asked where they could find the centipede. He told the boy that if they find it, he will give him a big reward. The boy smiled. He pointed to the west. He suggested searching for it on the Rocky Mountains in the west. Centipedes like to rest under warm rocks during the day and roam at night. Few hours later, at the Rocky Mountains, the men searched thoroughly. The patriarch stood above a tall, narrow rock. He watched intently. One man approached him and suggested that the young warrior could be wrong. He told everyone to call it a day. He ordered the signal arrow and gathered the search team. The arrow was fired. The men gathered around the bonfire. They were all exhausted, but they still hoped that the young warrior was right. They wondered why they couldn't find the centipede, but they somehow believed the young warrior since he looked intelligent. The patriarch was quiet, then eventually, with a pained expression on his face, he uttered that his daughter, Hyun, is considered the most exceptional talent in the history of Tang family. He asked if the heavens had abandoned her. All of a sudden, someone announced that the Grand Patriarch had returned. The Patriarch welcomed him back. They gathered around the bonfire. The Grand Patriarch asked the Patriarch if he failed to find it as well. The Patriarch replied, yes. The Patriarch asked if the Grand Patriarch failed too. He replied, yes. Hwayne could probably hold for 3 months at most. He doubted if they could find the centipede in 10 days. They were silent. The Patriarch suggested they explore the south tomorrow, since they haven't found any traces there. The Grand Patriarch agreed that they didn't find any traces. From that statement, the Patriarch realized something. He laughed out loud and expressed how he couldn't believe that he missed that. He stated that they are in the right place after all. The Patriarch asked if he saw something. The Grand Patriarch replied no, and just as the Patriarch said, he didn't sense any trace or presence. The Patriarch was confused. The Grand Patriarch explained that since there's no trace, he had a sense that it was there. He asked the Patriarch if he had seen any traces in the past 3 days, and he replied no. Not even an animal or droppings or territorial markings. That's when the Patriarch realized. The Grand Patriarch replied that it's exactly as it is. It doesn't make sense for there not to be a single trace of an animal on the huge mountain. And the Patriarch thought of the territorial animal. The Grand Patriarch suspected that they all fled or became food for the centipede. He pats the shoulder of the Patriarch and assured him that the blue spot centipede is definitely there. They became certain that they could save Hwayun. Patriarch had a sad yet hopeful expression of a father in his face. Then they felt the ground shake. They became alert. They panic as the cracks on the ground appear. The area around the bonfire had crumbled. Unexpectedly, it rose from the ground. They are all confused about what's going on. A limb came out from the ground. They watch as another one appears. They pointed at the creature that was coming out. They were terrified. Even the Grand Patriarch was nervous. Several more limbs arose. It's the freaking blue spot centipede, and man, it's definitely huge. Back at the academy, our boy complained how it was such a mess. He wondered how big the centipede is because there's so much noise. He commented how he told them to look for it, but they're turning the mountain upside down. He's amazed with a centipede big enough to swallow him whole. And since he's a poison Pokemon freak, he thought that he really wanted to see it. Back at the Rocky Mountain, eventually things have settled down. They have defeated the blue spot centipede, but not without being injured. They also got the core. It's a baby blue gem in a wooden box. The men were in tears now that they could finally save Huiyun. The Patriarch asked his father to go to Sichuan first and treat the injured warriors. The Grand Patriarch was confused. The Patriarch explained that grudges are carved on blood and favors are carved on stone, and that's how they live. In short, they still have things to do. The Grand Patriarch finally realized it. He admitted how he almost made a big mistake just by focusing on Huiyun. The Grand Patriarch agreed how it would be right to welcome the young warrior as a guest and give him what he wants. The patriarch ordered the injured warrior to receive treatment in the village while he visits the young warrior. The thought that the young warrior is also curious about the news came to his mind. We see our boy casually being caressed by these 3 little yellow Pokemon. The young warrior is having a dilemma. He had just become the father of the blue spot centipedes. There's 3 of them and they look like caterpillars. They're very cute and adorable, especially the way they rub themselves on the young warrior's face. Something reminded him while the boy was looking at the pot. When he got home, he cleaned the eggs and placed them on the nightstand. And when he woke up, they had all hatched. 1 centipede lay happily on the boy's head. The boy had sensed it, but he didn't really expect it to hatch quickly. He looked at them while pouting and tried to remove it on his shoulders. But there's a problem. They cling to him and won't get off because they think of him as their parent. A little recap of what happened last night. The boy was so curious about a new type of centipede so huge that it could swallow him. He told himself that if he endures this, he's not Spicy Faber in the hideout of the blue spot centipede that he found. He searched for it and he rashly kicked an insect. He was pissed off since he couldn't contain his curiosity. His torch fell since he lost his balance, but he was relieved. The 3 eggs that he got were all safe. It's a good thing that the rain had stopped, or he could have failed to get even a single one. Then he realized something. It wasn't the time to be that way. He immediately stood up to go back quickly and clean the eggs. He secured the eggs on his waist and told those eggs to just wait a bit longer and he'll be sure to give them a bath soon. Back to the present time, although he couldn't see the living blue spot centipede, he's glad he saved the remaining eggs. He asked those guys to give him some space. He knew that there's no need to provide them food since they will not eat until they have molted twice. But it's a pain since they keep clinging onto his body. Then he thought of something. If he goes into the water, those guys will leave him alone. He had a smirk on his face as he decided to take a shower. The little guy probably doesn't know what it means, but it shivered. Few hours later, the elder patriarch arrived at the academy. He walked towards the pavilion. He knocked on the door and asked if the young warrior was inside. But there was no response. He waited. He reached for the knob. Then he decided to enter. He looked around and saw herbs in jars, even medicine. It made him wonder if the young warrior is a medical practitioner. He thought how rude it is to enter the room without permission. He decided to come back later, but he heard rustling sounds. It caught his attention. It was coming from one of the pots. He turned back and opened the pot. He was surprised to see what's inside. It was a spider. Then his attention shifted to the drawers. He pulled one to open and saw a gecko. He looked around and checked another pot which contained beetles. There are also some eggs and dried snakes. It was unbelievable. He couldn't fathom that the young warrior is raising venomous animals and their offsprings. Even their Tang clan, who is familiar with venomous creatures, only managed to extract the poison. They haven't been able to find a way to increase the eggs that way. He thought he saved his daughter's life through a small, lucky encounter. But the real luck was the encounter with the young warrior himself. The young warrior saw and called him. The young warrior was worried that the elder hurt his arm since it was bandaged. The elder replied that it's not a big deal. He told the young warrior that he had to tell him something, but he was cut off mid-sentence because he felt an ominous energy. The entrance behind the boy has some explosion. Slowly, a silhouette of a head came up. When the body was revealed, it looked like a silhouette of an ogre. It had one eye and the left side of the face was burned. The elder immediately pushed the young warrior while telling him to run. The young warrior was surprised and confused. The monster made a loud noise while its stance looked like it was ready to attack. Then it took a step. Its movements are fast. It attacked with its hand. The elder blocked it with his uninjured arm. It was really painful. Then the monster pushed the elder back and sent him flying. The area was filled with dust that made the elder cough. He coughed up blood, too. He described the monster to be at par with his father. He told the young warrior to run, but when the smoke cleared, it revealed the young warrior being choked and lifted in the air by the monster. The young warrior coughed while the monster laughed loudly. The monster spoke, saying that he heard that the bastards from the Tang clan have come to Hainan. No one would have expected that the son of the myriad poisons divine sovereign would be injured and alone. The elder replied that he doesn't know who he is and asked why he is being targeted along with the young warrior. The monster asked him if he couldn't tell with his face and fist. He introduced himself as the blood hand Rakasa Takanyang, and it was the elder's father that made him look like that. The elder recognized the name. He heard that the man got hit in the head with a poisoned palm and fell off the cliff, but he's actually still alive. The elder told him that the young warrior had nothing to do with him, so he requested him to let go of the young warrior. And in return, the elder offered his life. But Anyang didn't want to. He vowed to slaughter anyone who even brushes past Tang clan's clothes. In his head, the elder cursed that damn demon. In this context, the demon is a powerful martial artist who causes harm to the world, and it looked like Anyang had no intention of letting the young warrior go. Our MC had turned pale from the lack of air. Anyang laughed loudly and told him to die. The young warrior weakly asked to be spared. He begged, and at this point, he was already a few seconds away from reaching his limit. All of a sudden, there's 3 pairs of fierce eyes. The 3 little centipedes dashed on Anyang's arm. It's showtime. These cute but fierce baby centipedes attacked and bit these ugly asses all over his body. Yang was confused to see the centipedes. He dropped the young warrior. He's furious as he yelled that even if those are centipedes, they can't harm him. All of a sudden, his neck turned violet and he coughed blood. He immediately fell on the ground. He was groaning from pain. Our boy was surprised and confused that he died. He moved away while confirming to the elder if it's a bad person. The elder, who saw everything, was bewildered. His jaw dropped and it turned into a huge grin as he realized that the young warrior isn't just a mere guest. The elder thought that the young warrior must definitely become a member of the Tang clan. A few days after Anyang collapsed, someone sighed. The young warrior is taking care of the elder. He placed a wet cloth on the elder's forehead as the man slept. The elder thanked him. The young warrior replied that instead of thanking him, he could tell him where his companions are and he'll go check on them. But then he realized he can't leave him alone. But they can't also call a doctor either. The elder told him not to worry and that he'll recover with a few days of rest. The boy was dumbfounded how calm the man is after coughing up so much blood. He told the elder to stop, saying that when he's in critical condition. The elder replied that he's fine because he's a martial artist. The young warrior was totally clueless. He asked if that's the kind that flies around and shoots fireballs and stuff. The elder had a small laugh and told him that not everyone can do it, but it's one way to put it. Spicy Faber was amazed. It's another thing that made him acknowledge that he's really in a different world after all. Otherwise, a centipede as big as a house doesn't make sense. The elder told him that he owes his life to the young warrior. He saved his life, and he introduced himself formally, despite being in that condition. He is Tang Cheol-san of the Sichuan Tang clan. And finally, our MC introduced himself as well. His name is Wei Soryong. Cheol-san knew that So means small and Rayong means dragon. It's a good name. Then Cheol-san expressed how he's so many questions that he'd like to ask. So Rayong told him to go ahead. He asked if those are venomous centipedes on his body. Soryong rubbed one centipede on its belly and replied, yes, since they are blue spot centipedes. The shock made Keel-san rise up from the bed. He asked if Soryong tamed them and how did he do it? Keel-san continued saying that while waiting for him, he saw other venomous creatures too. He asked if he's raising those as well. Soryong replied that it's going to be a long story. He asked if he's okay with it. Keel-san replied that he doesn't mind. Soryong started with the egg of the blue spot centipede. When he concluded his story, Cheol-san confirmed with him if he raised it from an egg. Soryong replied yes, since he could roughly predict when it would hatch. In Cheol-san's head, it was something he couldn't fathom. Just how did the boy do it? Soryong asked him to wait for a bit. Our MC then headed towards one of the drawers. He took out 2 lizards and proudly told the elder to take a look at it. First is the lizard with brown body and yellow stripes on its body and white stripes on its tail. It's an ordinary striped lizard. Then there's the other one. He made 2 lizards with larger white stripes on their tail breed, so the other one only has 2 colors. It has a brown body and white tail, no stripes. Cheol-san asked if what he's saying is that he bred that color. Soryong blushed and happily replied yes. He thought it was pretty. Chilson composed himself and asked if the young warrior can pair the ones with strong poison to create an even venomous one. Soryang replied, in his head, he thought that theoretically it's possible. Then he replied to the elder, explaining that if they knew which one had stronger poison, it would probably be possible. He wasn't done when Chilson exclaimed, "Really? That's possible." That intense reaction shocked Soryang. Immediately, Chilson told him to become part of his family right there and then. Soryang is now confused. Chilson tempted him by saying that if he joins, they will generously teach him all their martial arts and he'll have access to all sorts of elixirs, herbs, and any poisons he wants. Keel-san told him that someone like him could even capture or raise the legendary 10 great venomous creatures of Central Plains of the martial world. And if that isn't enough to sway Soryang's heart, this old man even added not to brag, but to share one of the 3 flowers of Central Plains as daughter. Soryang screamed, "Hold on!" Soryang asked what he just said. Keel-san was amused. He commented that even if Soryang is young, he's still a man. He continued talking about the flowers of the Central Plains, but Soryang cut him off and told him to forget about the flowers. Soryang brought up the topic about the 10 great venomous creatures of Central Plains. He asked if they're amazing, like the blue spot centipede. Chio-san replied, of course. He told him that blue spot centipede is impressive, but it's lower ranked compared to the 10 great venomous creatures of Central Plains. From the giant scorpion to the golden frog that shines like gold, whatever Soryang is imagining, it is beyond that. Keo-san smiled. It looked like he succeeded in persuading Soryang. Soryang looked excited and had sparkly eyes. 2 days later, one Tang clan member was surprised to find out that Bloodhand Rakasa, Tak Anyang, showed up. Keo-san replied that it looked like Anyang had been hiding and polishing his martial arts. He was at a level close to his father. Then the men of the Tang clan realized something. If the patriarch sent the man to his death, it could be that he reached the realm of 10,000 poisons. They congratulated him. The patriarch replied that he hasn't. He informed them that the young warrior is the one who killed Anyang. The Tang clan members' jaws dropped. One man immediately clasped the young warrior's hand. They thanked them for saving the patriarch of the Sichuan Tang clan. They asked if he's an elder who has undergone rejuvenation. Soryang was confused. The elder noticed that there's a misunderstanding, so he requested Soryang to show them. The Tang clan members knew what it meant, but Soryang tapped his chest and asked the guys to come out. The Tang clan members watched Soryang's clothes rustle, and 3 adorable centipedes peeked out. Everyone gasped at the sight of it. The little guys crawled out. The Tang clan member knew it was a centipede. The patriarch explained that it's blue spot centipedes, and those little centipedes got rid of Anyang. They asked about the poison. It was unbelievable that he was able to tame one. The patriarch explained that it's the reason why he decided to accept the young warrior as one of their own. But Soryang said he'd think about it a bit more. A clan member told Soryang that it's a great opportunity. The patriarch uttered that he should get up now because he has a feeling that he shouldn't be late. Soryang asked if he's still looking for something. Chil-sun was quiet for a moment. Then he started explaining that Bloodhand Rakasa Takwiyang had practiced the martial arts named the Bloodhand Poison Claw. It's a devil art for which one needs human blood and bone marrow to reach a certain stage. Soryang finds that really creepy. Keel-san explained that if Anyang left behind any secret scrolls or disciples, they have to deal with it to eliminate any future threats to make sure such cruel martial arts never return to the martial world. Also, if there's anyone captured, they gotta help them too. The patriarch asked if the young warrior would help them with it. After all, he's familiar with the geography of Hainan Island. Soryang looked sullen. He thought about it, and joining the Tang clan would mean a lifelong position. If you think about it, it's a rule of the thumb to check out the company atmosphere and the boss's character during an internship. Soryang agreed to help as soon as the patriarch felt better. They affirmed him for making the right choice. Soryang replied that it means saving lives, so of course he would help. Inside his head, his plan is to thoroughly use the chance to find out what kind of place the Sichuan Tang clan is. After all, skilled people always reverse interview their companies. It took Keel-san 3 days to recover. They stopped by a village near the abandoned martial academy to find the base of the Blood Hand Rakshasa Takunying. They asked if there were any missing people. An old man shared that there are about 1 or 2 people who go missing in the jungle every year, but there haven't been any periodic disappearances. Keel-san was in deep thought. They thanked the village chief for telling them. The village replied that it's nothing. I am honored to be able to help the famous patriarch of the Sichuan Tang clan. They excused themselves. Unfortunately, they didn't find any important leads. They passed through the forest. Soryong asked Cheol-san that there's nothing special about the village. Cheol-san explained that when Eun-yang found them and revealed himself, it was around that area, but it wasn't easy to find. Soryong finds it strange, too, for having no traces. He recalled what that bastard said. It made him realize something. He asked the elder if he remembered what the bastard said when he showed up. Keel-san replied, "Not really." Soryong remembered that Keel-san was sent away by Wiang's palm that time. He told him that the bastard said that he heard that the bastards from the Tang clan have come to Hainan. In other words, Eun-yang talked about someone informing him. So, it's simple. They only had to check the places the Tang clan passed through in Hainan. Soryong suggested they go around with Eun-yang's portrait, and they'll be able to find out. They looked at Soryong bewilderingly. They found him incredible. If Eun-yang said something like that, he must have heard it from someone who saw the Tang clan. Things had become easier for them. They departed right away. They arrived at a village. It looked gloomy. One Tang clan member reported that, according to what he heard at the port in Hainan, that village seems to be the one. The elder replied that it's the place where those Halai people live. They decided to go to the village, expecting those people wouldn't be hostile to them. The villagers looked lifeless. The Tang clan asked if anyone's available. That caught the attention of the villager. They saw the Tang clan. They asked what the Han people were doing there. An old man, who could be the village chief, approached them. He's holding the hand of a little girl, and behind them are 2 guards. They all looked sick. Keel-san introduced himself. Soryong watched them chat. He also noticed how the child looks weak and the village is lifeless. Then he thought of something. Other villagers were droopy. They seemed to have taken some kind of medicine. The village chief replied that no one's missing and nothing special is going on in their village. He told them to leave. The elder argued that compared to the number of houses, the number of people, he was cut off mid-sentence when the village chief told them that it's nothing they should take interest in. Once again, they are asked to go back. Keel-san and Soryong were dumbfounded. Keel-san whispered to Soryong, recalling what he said earlier, that the Halai people should be friendly to them. Soryong had nothing to respond to. He noticed the little girl once again. She collapsed. Everyone was surprised. The village chief placed her in his lap. White tears pooled in his eyes. He told Mi-jin not to leave her since she's the only relative he has left. He couldn't bear to see her sick too. Chosen approached the village chief and informed him that he learned a bit about medical arts. He sought permission to help them. The village chief asked if it was Central Plains medical arts. He replied yes. Even though he's not a physician, he has some knowledge in medicine. He asked if he could take a look at the child. The village chief requested him to do so. Then the village chief was about to say something. He informed them that a plague has been spreading around the village for some time now, and children are dying and healthy people are suffering. Cheol-san said he would give it a try. The village chief thanked him. They brought her inside. The village chief scolded the guards for just standing there and ordered them to guide the physician and his party inside. They rushed towards a house. Soryong asked a Tang clan member if the elder knows medical arts too. The man replied yes. He shared that Tang clan's martial arts involve dealing with poison, so they are proficient in medicine. Also, since martial arts begin with knowing one's body, one must know some medical arts as well. Soryong thought that they were an assassin group that used poison. If he enters the Tang clan, it would be great if he can learn medical arts instead of terrifying poison arts. Then the man added that sometimes they catch wicked bastards and inject them with poison and see how they react too. Soryang's reaction was so funny upon hearing that since he translated that to doing human experiments as he imagined it, the more terrified he got. The village streets were empty, and inside one of the houses, someone sighed. Keel-san explained that he transferred some of his ki to her and stabilized her breathing. The village chief thanked him. The village chief begged them to save his one and only granddaughter. Kyeolsun brought up a topic. It was because there's something odd with the child's pulse. He asked if she has had a weak heart since birth. The village chief shared that it has been half a year since she started feeling sick. Besides his granddaughter, other people started to get sick too. They call it a mysterious disease. That's why he told them to go back when they were at the entrance earlier. Cheol-san told the village chief that he will give them some good medicine for the heart. He asked the villagers to be gathered so they could try it. The village chief burst into tears while he thanked him. He genuinely thanked him. Soryeong watched Cheol-san intently. Later that night, a Tang clan member walked alongside the patriarch and acknowledged how the patriarch had worked hard tending to the patients. The patriarch thanked Gu Pai. Pai asked about the symptoms. Cheol-san replied that it's quite unusual. There's lethargy, swelling in the eyes, light fever, irregular pulses. The symptoms were all different, and those with severe symptoms all had problems with their hearts. Cheol-san asked where Soryeong was. Pai replied that Soryeong must be tired from helping, so he fell asleep. He left him in his room. Cheol-san agreed since Soryeong had been following them without knowing any martial arts, so it's a given that he's tired. Cheol-san decided to see him. Pai offered to take him there. They entered the room. Soryeong was sleeping deeply on the bed, while the 3 centipedes were in a basket. Cheol-san peeked through the door. Then he noticed something. Immediately he entered. He raised his hand against Soryeong. His hand was heavy. When he slapped Soryeong, Soryeong immediately woke up with pain on his cheek. Cheol-san was glaring at him. Soryeong wondered what's with him all of a sudden. Soryeong moved away from him out of instinct. He cradled his painful cheek. He grits his teeth and started getting angry. He asked why he did that and complained that it hurts. The elder apologized and explained that there was a bug on his face, so he wanted to catch it. Soryeong finds it unbelievable. Cheol-sun asked to be heard out. He wanted to check on him before he went to sleep, so he stopped by. However, a bug landed on his sleeping face. There are a lot of venomous insects in the area, so he thought it would be dangerous to leave the bug there, and so Cheol-sun's hand went up on its own. He showed it to Soryeong while saying that it's a large bug. Soryeong was surprised to see that. Then he realized something. He confirmed with Cheol-sun that even if the patients are suffering from various diseases, they all have arrhythmia. Cheol-sun replied that it's correct. Soryeong realized the cause of the illness in town was. Then he pointed at the bug, saying it was him. Kissing bug. It's a species of the Reduvity family. It got its name because it sucks blood from the eye or lip area. They are so sneaky that they blood suck more quietly than a mosquito. That's why they are also called vampire or assassin bugs. The bugs themselves aren't venomous, but their stomachs are full of harmful parasites. So once a person is bitten, they can easily get infected through their excrement. They cause trypanosomiasis, also known as the Chagas disease, and are ranked 7th in the list of dangerous animals that killed humans the most. Soryeong asked the village chief if the dogs of the village run out of breath easily or show similar symptoms to those in humans. The village chief replied that they do, and asked if it's because of the bug, too. Soryeong replied yes. He asked if it meant that they could save his granddaughter. Soryeong replied that it's possible if they have the right medicine. Cheol-sun grinned. He asked Pai what he thinks. Pai replied that he can see the young warrior's true value. Soryeong saw them and wondered what's wrong with them. They told him that they are the Sichuan Tang family. Soryeong looked clueless, and once again, Cheol-san repeated the same statement. In his head, Soryeong asks, "So what?" His annoyed and confused expression was funny, too. Cheol-san explained that there's something called gu. Some say they're venomous parasites, others simply call them witchcraft. They're bugs grown by evil men in China. He added that those men feed the bugs to people to cause them pain, or to make people do whatever they want them to do. Soryeong replied that it sounds incredible. Cheol-san agreed, but countless martial artists have been killed by those gu, or were forced to kill their very own children, or were forced to betray their families and became a slave of those evil men. That's why many didn't spare efforts to find an antidote against gu. He's pertaining to cures that either make the gu come out of the body or that melt and kill them off inside the body. Soryeong started to realize it. Then Cheol-san asked that if there's someone who succeeded in making a cure, who could it be? Then he proudly says that of course it's the great Sichuan Tang family. So he told them that if they have something that can melt off the fist-sized round worm inside the body, the tiny bug won't be a problem for them. He showed the curse-melting orb. Even a little bit of that medicine should be enough. Soryang expressed his amusement, but deep inside, he thought about how fancy the name is for an anti-parasitic drug. They assured the village chief that they can save his granddaughter. In the end, the villagers began to recover one by one, starting with the chief's granddaughter. The chief was so relieved the villagers' warm hospitality was a nice extra reward. Seeing their bright and cheerful expressions, it seemed as if rumors regarding their optimistic personalities weren't wrong. Keel-san expressed that it would have been difficult had it not been for Soryang identifying the reason. In that sense, he told everyone that he's not deserving of the gratitude, but Soryang is. They thanked the young warrior and called him their savior. Even though the Tang family's medicine cured the villagers, Keel-san gave all the credit to him. Seeing Soryang get all the thank you made Keel-san satisfied and happy, as if he's the one getting them. Soryang was touched by that sight. They all rejoiced, and they threw Soryang in the air repeatedly. A bit later, the village chief whispered to Keel-san's ear about what they talked about at the entrance of the village. Keel-san asked what it was. The village chief pertained to the villages who had missing people. Keel-san remembered that and asked what about it. The old man expressed that he wanted to repay the favor as much as possible, so he looked into it and a strange story came to his ears. Among their village's women, there is one who comes from another village, and she told him that a few years ago, her hometown suffered a tragedy where a few people disappeared from the village. They all thought that they had finally found it. Keel-san asked where the village is. The village chief replied that it's a small village to the west. Lo and behold, they arrived in that village. It stinks of corpses. They are in the right place. Keel-san saw something. The corpses, trash and bugs are scattered in the area. There's poison in the air. Pai told Soryang not to look because it's too gruesome, but Soryang already saw everything. A man noticed something and asked what it was. There's a gold chicken foot. It ate the corpse of a snake. It's Ho-Oh. Nah, I'm kidding. It's a mysterious bird. It has a golden tail and colors of purple, pink, and black dominate its body. It looked magical. One person couldn't let it dishonor the dead anymore, so he grabbed a rock and then he threw it at the bird. Chilson tried to stop him, but it was too late. The bird didn't get hit, but they definitely caught its attention. The man was furious, but Chilson placed a hand on his shoulder and told him that something feels off. The bird spread its wings. It emits miasma in the air. Soryang was surprised. It melted the skeletons. Someone grabbed Soryang by the mouth. Keel-san ordered everyone to run while he held Soryang's mouth and nose. That beast is a jinyao. The name literally translates to poison-feathered bird. After that encounter, the group was safe. They gathered around Keel-san. Keel-san informed everyone that when it spreads its wings, it's 5 feet wide. Its beak is sharp and bronze-colored and the body is covered in purple feathers. When it unleashes its fury and spreads its wings, everything around it turns black and dies, becoming poison. On its head, it has a golden crown, truly a regal presence. This is called a gen or a genyao. Soryang had thoughts. His eyes were full of enthusiasm when he asked if it's one of the 10 great venomous creatures. Chowson replied yes. He explained that this occupies the very top of the great venomous creatures and is called the genio, known as the king of all the venom. Soryang was so excited. In his mind, even venomous insects and snakes on Earth seem adorable in comparison to it. Soryang thought of how biochemical weapons are just roaming in his current world. Cheolson said that it seems to have been drawn in there by snakes carrying venom. It said that the genio only eats the heads of venomous snakes. Soryang asked if it was common. Cheolson replied no, and it's quite rare. So rare that one might only catch a glimpse of it in 100 years. Soryang was so amazed. It made Cheolson inquire as to why he asked. He asked if it's possible to catch it. That flabbergasted the Tang members. Keelson was amused and asked Soryang if he wanted to try catching it. Soryang replied yes, but he's worried about the venom. Keelson smiled. He understood that Soryang had a great interest in 10 great venomous creatures. If that's the case, he told him, there's a way. Soryang was surprised. Kyeolsun informed him that if he masters the Tang clan's poison techniques, he will become immune to all poisons and be able to withstand Jinyao's venom. Only with their clan's martial arts, he can block poisons in the entire world. Kyeolsun was sly when he dropped the statement that they don't teach their clan's techniques to outsiders. Even if he wants to help him as the patriarch, he can't break the rules. Soryang eagerly asked if he could learn it if he became a part of the family. He also asked that if he becomes immune to poison, would he really withstand the Jinyao's venom? Chaosun replied, of course, and that if Soryang agrees to it now, he will teach him without holding back, and make sure to take care of his gift as well. He added that if Soryang takes too long hesitating, he would also hesitate. Soryang felt the pressure. Then he announced that he will do it and become a member of the clan. He told him that he's looking forward to his guidance. He called him Patriarch, now instead of Elder. The cunning man had a mischievous grin on his face and replied as if he didn't bait Soryang into agreeing. Kyeolsun told Soryang that from then on, he is forever one of their family. Back at the rotten place, traces of the blood hand Rakshasa, Takanyong, is seen at a cave. There were footsteps, too. They called the Patriarch and gave him a notebook that they found inside the cave. Kyeolsun scanned it and confirmed that it's the secret technique of the blood hand poison claw. Soryang was creeped out that it was written in blood. Kyeolsun decided to head back. Soryang asked if they were going to Sichuan. Kyeolsun replied that it's the best now that they obtained the blue spot centipede's core and secured Manual. Soryang asked if it's all right to stop by at the academy since he would like to release his friends. Kyeolsun agreed since Soryang needs to gather his belongings too. They head out. But then when Soryang looked behind him, he noticed something. He pointed out that there's something over there. They checked it and saw a shining purple feather from the Jianyao. They all stared at it while thinking. Kyeolsun took it, and he told Soryang that he'll consider it as a commemorative gift for becoming part of their family. Soryang looked very interested in it. Soryang thanked him. Kyeolsun replied, everything is good except for the way he addressed him. He suggested changing the title after the ceremony. Soryang wondered if it's like an initiation ceremony. Meanwhile, at the Tang clan, the Grand Patriarch Tang Museong, who left first, has finally arrived. He's exhausted, but he didn't rest. Instead, he asked how Huayan was doing. He was assisted by the Tang members as they hurried inside. They told him that she's holding on to her life. The door opened. He immediately called Huayan. The people inside were surprised to see him. He told his daughter-in-law that he now has the medicine. He took out the core of the blue spot centipede. Seeing that he succeeded made the daughter-in-law cry. They prepared to give it to her. Museong became sad as he looked at her pained expression. That was a close call. He's glad that he hurried back. The daughter-in-law encouraged him to give the medicine at once. Museong made her granddaughter swallow it. A blue glow surrounded her. Museong placed a finger on her hand to check her pulse. They all wished for her to open her eyes. They watched her as they waited. Meanwhile, Soryang looked groggy. He heard that the Central Plains are vast, but he didn't expect it to be that much. From Hainan, take a boat to Hangzhou, then passing through Nanjing after a journey lasting over a month and a half. Finally, they have arrived in Sichuan. At the Xinchuan Tang clan's residence, Pai happily announced to Soryang that it's the Xinchuan Tang clan. Soryang has his mouth wide open. They stood at the entrance. They informed him that the entire mountain belongs to the Sichuan Tang clan. That's why the mountain is called Tang Clan Mountain. Soryang gulped as he took it all in. Immediately, the members of the Tang clan came out and welcomed the patriarch. Soryang was taken aback because there were so many of them. He wondered if all those people are from the Sichuan Tang clan, but among these ugly asses, a girl with a red dress was also running towards them. This one was rushing. She called her father. It was Huiyan. Tears ran through her face as she was just happy to see her father again. Meanwhile, our boy Soryang was bewitched. Kyeolsun was glad to see her daughter alive. She hugged her tightly while apologizing to him. Soryang couldn't fathom her beauty. He had a fling with a celebrity in his past life, but he had never seen someone with such a radiant aura before. Kyeolsun told Soryang that he has someone he wants to introduce to him. Chilson introduced her daughter, Huayan, to him. Soryang was dumbfounded. He asked if it was what Chilson said before. Soryang said that it's something about the weed or the grass that jogged Chilsan's memory and uttered that it was about the flower. Huayan blushed. Chilson told Soryang that the girl beside him is the flower that Soryang brushed off. Soryang was speechless. He recalled their conversation about the flower and felt embarrassed. Right at this moment, our MC knew that he fucked up. He never imagined that he had let go the chance of having his beautiful waifu, the only daughter of the Sichuan Tang clan, also called the venomous flower Tang Huayan. She carried an emotional burden that no one knew about since she was young. She heard some old men talking about her. They can't be sure of her talent, but her beauty is outstanding enough to be called one of the 3 flowers of the murim. They talked about her having a suitable son-in-law. The other old man mentioned that he told the patriarch to take a second wife, but the patriarch refused, and he doesn't understand why. When Huayan heard that, she knew her parents weren't wrong. She wanted to show it to the clan elders by making great achievements in the family's martial arts. She wanted to show that she could do a lot for the family, even if she wasn't a man. But haste makes waste. If one is impatient, they will lose their way. That impatience brought about a heart demon, and that heart demon led to key deviation. We then see Huayan woke up. This was the time when the Grand Patriarch, her mother, and 2 other people surrounded her bed. Her mother looked relieved now that she's safe. Tears fell from Huayan's eyes. She cried while she apologized to her mother. She wanted to be a useful person to the clan, but she has lost all her inner ki. Her grandfather replied and called her brat. He asked her if she's doing it because she feels sorry for making her father and grandfather suffer. He pointed out how she reached the level of 100 poisons that she desperately wanted. He told her to stop crying and cheered up. He lost her when he said something about 100 poisons. She looked at her aura. It was glowing. She asked her grandfather. The Grand Patriarch told her that he has something to tell her. It's a story about a mysterious young warrior who not only saved her life, but also gave her the inner chi of 1,000 poisons, not just 100 poisons. At the present time, Huayan asked about weed. Soryang had no response. Again, Soryang was embarrassed for referring to Chilsan's daughter as weed because he was so immersed in the story about the 10 great venomous creatures. He told his past self to reflect on this. He tried to dismiss it by saying that the patriarch had taken the joke too far. He told her that it was nice to meet her. It was so funny how the clan members were all smiles upon witnessing the encounter of these 2 young adults. Soryang introduced himself. He told her that he knew she was sick, so he's happy to see that she's healthy now. Huayan told him it's nice to meet him. She introduced herself as Huayan and that she's also called the venomous flower. She thanked him for saving her life and that she will never forget his favor for the rest of her life. Soryang was enamored as to how pretty she is. Chilsan asked Soryang what he thinks. Soryang's jaw dropped when he heard a voice in his head. He assumed it's some kind of sound transmission. Chilsan asked if he agrees with him that her daughter is such a beauty. He asked Soryang if he wants to get to know him more. Few moments later, Soryang rested in a large bath. The centipedes were peacefully sleeping in a basket. Soryang felt like he's going to die. He looked haggard. Then he noticed something. He smiled, seeing the centipedes. One centipede woke up and it smiled at him. Normally they would never fall off, but when he told them that hot water is bad for them and suggested they stay in the bucket, they just went in as if they understood. He finds it mysterious. It's like they can understand him. Chilsan said that they react to killing intent. 2 centipedes are now awake and watching him. He told them that he feels embarrassed that they keep staring at his naked body. Then the 2 centipedes hid inside the bucket. Soryang was amused. He remembered that Pai said that the centipedes were spiritual creatures. He took a mental note to ask what spiritual creatures are later. He thought about it. He can't calm down because of what Kyle-san said. He knew he had to leave quickly at a different pavilion. The family is gathered around the table. There's the Grand Patriarch, the Patriarch, his wife and daughter. Kyle-san told everyone that he's going to give the East Wing room to the young warrior. This room is one of the bedrooms of a couple in a traditional Chinese residence. The Grand Patriarch asked if the young warrior is really that talented. The Patriarch replied yes, and that he thought they meant by chance. But his help wasn't the lucky encounter. It's the person himself. He explained that not only is his knowledge of venomous creatures extraordinary, he even killed Ouyang. What's more, he has encountered legendary spiritual creatures, like the poison-feathered bird. Besides, he even hatched the blue spot centipede eggs himself. The Grand Patriarch commented that the Patriarch had found such a treasure. Their attention shifted to Huayun. Kiasun told her daughter that he wants to take the young warrior as his son-in-law. He asked what she thought about it. Huayun thought about what it meant. Then she realized. She fell silent. She wanted to show that she could be much more helpful to their clan now that she acquired the Constitution Beyond 100 Poisons, the 1,000 Poisons Constitution. She replied that she's also a member of the Tang clan and she understands what her father is saying. But she told him that whether the young warrior deserves her is for her to find out. Then she ran out of the room. It was such an awkward scenario. In Kiasun's head, the young warrior should be careful. As pretty as his rose is, she also has sharp thorns. Huayun ran fast. She felt hurt. Now, she finally acquired the 1,000 Poison Constitution. If she stops there, the elders will never acknowledge her. She planned to thoroughly check what kind of person the young warrior is from his qualifications to his personality. Meanwhile, Soryang is thinking of what he should do. He knew that she would probably hold a grudge against him. He asked his kids, aka Centipede, what he should do. Out of the blue, Hu Yen showed up and it shocked the hell out of him. She looked really gorgeous. Brothers, this art style is really messing up with me. It reminds me of some manhwas that can't be named. Anyway, back to the recap. She told him to excuse her for a bit. She's in a hurry. She asked for his hand. He gave it to her like a dog giving a paw to his human. Then he blushed. He told her that he doesn't know why she's in a hurry, but he suggested doing those things after they have become closer. He's shy as he utters that there's an order to things like that. Wei Yun asked what he's talking about. Then realization dawned on her. Her whole face turned red like a tomato as she corrected him that it wasn't what she meant. Soryang felt cold and disappointed upon knowing that it wasn't what he thought. There was an awkward silence. Wei Yun sighed. She clarified again that it's not what he's thinking. She just wanted to check his pulse. She guessed that it was because she suddenly asked for his hand that he misunderstood. Soryang felt ashamed. She sat beside him while apologizing for appearing out of nowhere and acting rudely. She told him that he's young and hasn't come of age yet, but he seems thoughtful, so she plans to explain to him what is going on. She started explaining while Soryang paid close attention. From what Soryang heard, he thought it was a medieval drama. As the only direct descendant, Huayun constantly faced wicked schemes of the branch families. Therefore, to ensure the continuation of the family line, the elders planned to bring in a highly capable son-in-law. They even considered how Soryang's standing in the family might change if he were to join it. Wei-in apologizes in advance because there's something she needs to confirm. She told him that even if things don't turn out well, she has no intention of treating him poorly. She acknowledges that he is her benefactor, so of course she wants to treat him as a guest or something like sworn siblings. Soryang extended his hand. He told her that he understands what she meant, so she's free to confirm whatever it is that she needs to. She observed him. She took his hand and placed her hand on his pulse. She started emitting a blue aura around her. She explained that the martial arts of the Tang clan aren't something just anyone can learn. Some people can accept toxins into their bodies and master Tang clan's techniques, while others simply cannot. That's why the Tang clan's poison techniques require one to gradually adapt to the poisons as their internal energy grows. Only by accepting them all can one achieve mastery. There's a tear on the poisons. It starts with 5 poisons, then 10 poisons, 100 poisons, 1,000 poisons, and finally 10,000 poisons. Fortunately, Soryang's body is capable of learning the poison techniques. However, it's only 10 poisons. This means his body can only handle 10 types of toxins. Having a 10 poison body is impressive, especially for someone not born into the Tang clan. Soryang was flabbergasted. Huayun continued to express that, in terms of general skill, it would only place him at the level of a first-rate martial artist, the highest martial artist prowess someone with no innate talent could attain. She decided to take her leave. He saw her off. Soryang thought that he had a 10-poison body. He turned pale, realizing that it could mean that he couldn't catch the Jianyao. For Soryang, it's a serious matter. Few hours later, someone stepped out of the bath. It was Hwayun, and man, what a fan service. She noticed that ever since she took the inner core of the blue spot centipede, her body emits a weird scent, and it happens even though she bathes several times a day. She put on her clothes. She wondered if it's some kind of punishment for speaking ungratefully to the one who saved her life. Our boy Soryang was deep asleep. In his dreams, he's talking to someone who told him how she's grateful for his kindness. It was Hwayun. He asked if he's dreaming. Hwayun replied that it may feel like a dream, but it isn't. The Hwayun in there explained that she borrowed the appearance of the girl who consumed her inner core to avoid startling him. She introduced herself as the mother of all those creatures, the blue spot centipede. Soryang couldn't follow. 3 little girls approach him. He deduced that those 3 are her babies. He asked her how she appeared in her dreams. She explained that she was killed without mercy, leaving her children behind, and her grudge reached the heavens, and her spirit lingered in the inner core. She added that while cursing from within the body of the girl who consumed her core, a chance to resolve her grudge arose, allowing her to appear in his dreams that way. It's all because he brought all of her children with him. Soryang knew to himself that in the end, he was the one who gave away her location. He didn't mean to, but he ended up being involved in the death of the blue spot centipede. He watched her. She asked her benefactor if he could grant her one request. He replied yes and promised to fulfill any request she may have. She asked him to take care of her children until they're fully grown. Soryang was confused since centipedes are supposed to become independent after molting twice from their mother's body. She replied that it may be true for the lesser creatures, but they are different. She explained that until the offspring of her species shed their shells twice, they remain dependent on the ki flowing from their mother's inner core. Afterward, they continue to grow by feeding on the true ki of other beings. It made Soryang ask that since Hwayun consumed the inner core, does it mean that the babies need to stay with her? The mother centipede told him that he needs to understand the circumstances. She pointed out that earlier she cursed the girl. Because of her inner core, the girl's body is emitting a foul odor. She intended to ensure that no man would ever approach the girl, preventing her from ever bearing children. In exchange for lifting the curse, she bargained to let her children absorb the chi from her inner core, and maybe that way Soryang could also win the girl's heart. Soryang thought about it, then he smiled and replied that it doesn't sit right with him. He doesn't want to take advantage of Hwayun's difficult situation. The mother centipede couldn't help but admire him for being an honorable person. She asked how he plans to overcome the challenge. She pointed out that the girl is looking for a strong man and that she can't exactly procure the inner core of the 10 great venomous creatures for him. That gave Soryang an idea. He asked her to trust her on it. He told her to leave it to him, and it will work out well. The next day, Soryang and Hwayun are sitting side by side. Hwayun now understands that the smell coming from her body is due to the blue spot centipede's inner core. Soryang told her that it's right, and that if she attaches the centipedes to her body every few days and let them absorb the chi, the smell will naturally fade away. Hwayun had a question, but she felt uncomfortable saying it. Regardless, she asked him if it's okay with him to share it with her without asking anything in return. She knew that he could easily request something as compensation. Soryang smiled, and then he uttered that he couldn't bring himself to take advantage of a woman's difficult situation. He refused to be that shameless. Hwayun was surprised with his response. She felt bad. She replied that she won't just keep accepting his kindness without offering something in return. Now she considered her father's words seriously. Seeing Soryang made her realize that there are things more valuable than talent or martial prowess. Soryang brought up that he's been thinking as well. He brought up the topic when she mentioned that he has 10 poison bodies and can only absorb 10 types of toxins. So Soryang had an idea. If he could only take in 10 types of toxins to fill those 10 slots with the toxins of the 10 most venomous creatures of the Central Plains. Hwayun was surprised to hear that. She interpreted it as that he wants to become the strongest under the heavens, all for her sake. The thought made her blush. For one of the 3 flowers of murim, the venomous flower Tang Huiyun, this was the first time a man had ever made such a bold confession to her. She blushed while Soryang smiled at her. She asked him if he realized what he said, then Soryang replied that he doesn't. Huiyun told him that the path will be incredibly tough and challenging. It might take 10 years or even 20 years, or maybe a lifetime's worth of effort to take on such a challenge. It was funny how Soryang's expression turned grim while wondering if it would really take that long. Huiyun kept blushing. Huiyun brought up that Soryang is 15 years old, and in 3 years, when he comes of age and ready to marry, if he manages to succeed in dealing with even one of the 10 great venomous creatures by then she will be conceived. She embarrassingly said that if he succeeds, there will be a possibility of a wedding. She screamed that she'll be rooting for him, then stood up. Then she dashed away. Soryang was puzzled. He called out to her. She turned around and asked if he still had something to say. He suggested for her to get treated and stay, even if it's just a couple of hours. She was embarrassed, but she came back. He assured her that there's nothing to worry since the little centipede doesn't bite. He gathered his kids. He told them to go to their mom instead of their dad. Hearing that made Huiyun red as a tomato. She asked about the words dad and mom, but immediately Soryang told her that it's not what he meant. Chil-san, his wife, and Muziang are gathered on the table. They talked about how the extraordinary talent of the young warrior couldn't even win his daughter's heart. Muziang asked if they saw them this morning. He shared that it looked like something was going on between the two of them. Huiyun's mother replied that it looked like the young warrior was turned down by Huiyun. The men were thinking hard. Muziang stated that forcing a marriage isn't the right thing to do, and that it would be better for them to naturally develop feelings for each other. Huiyun's mother suggested to let Huiyun handle the young warrior's martial arts training, so they would spend more time together, and that would help them grow closer. Chaelson replied that it's a good idea. Muziang stated that they should find out if the elder healer sage can bestow the grace of the purifying elixir of marrow and essence. If the young warrior's aptitude is low, it can be raised. Kiel-san was surprised that he'd suggest that because it wasn't made possible for Huiyun. So better if they don't get their hopes up. Musong agreed. At the same time, Huiyun is outside the door. She announced herself to her father. Kiel-san asked what brought him that hour. He invited her in. She blushed. She didn't expect to see the 3 of them there. She came because she had something to say. She blushed again. Then in one go, she expressed that she will do as father said. Chil-san was taken aback. He asked her what she meant. Huiyun's mother invited her to sit, and then she asked her if she meant that the young warrior had caught her interest. She's embarrassed. She couldn't even say a word. Chil-san was curious as to how this happened suddenly, especially when they thought she didn't like him before. She started saying that the young warrior. Then she relayed that Soryang said he would become the greatest in the world for her. He promised her that. Kiel-san was surprised. He got curious, so she encouraged her to tell him more. She said that although Soryang's innate talent is only at the level of 10 poisons, he promised to fill the gap by defeating 10 great venomous creatures for her sake. Muziang was amused. Kiel-san was surprised. Muziang laughed out loud and commented that the guy sure has guts. Huiyun's mother was impressed. It's unlikely to find a suitor like that. She explained that though her heart is willing, she told him that she would only agree to marriage if he could capture one of the 10 great venomous creatures before he comes of age. She wondered if he understood her response. Her father joked that she should have said at least 3 creatures. Her mother stated that men aren't particularly sharp about such things. Huiyun asked her mother if she should go explain it to him. Her mother replied no, and that if he doesn't realize that they've already given their approval, he'll try harder. Muziang uttered to treat him as a prospective son-in-law, but act as though they're undecided. They expected that with all that effort, he'll naturally become part of the family. Meanwhile, the mother centipede told Soryang that he was impressive. She told him that he completely won the lady's heart. He replied that it's all about guts and perseverance. She smiled at him warmly. She called him her benefactor and informed him that it would likely be her last. Her resentment has been resolved, so her soul will soon ascend to the afterlife. She asked if there's anything he could do for him. She will do whatever is possible. Soryang thought about it. He asked if he could take a look at her body. She felt shy, but she thought it was expected since he's a man after all. She saw him as someone with a weakness for lust. She revealed her shoulder and was about to strip. He asked her if she really needed to take it off. That made her blush even more. She asked if she should not take it off. Soryang clarified that it's not what he meant. It's funny how the children are covering their eyes. Soryang clarified that he wanted to see the appearance of a blue spot centipede. She felt horrified as she understood. Smoke covered the area. Then she revealed her true form. Soryang gasps at the sight of her. He was excited and happy to see her for real. It was amazing how huge she is. He asked if he could touch her, but he's already doing so. He inquired about her body as if it was waterproof. He talked about his vision of her walking. He asked if he could touch her legs, but he's already doing it. He asked how strong her venom is. He asked about her eyes, even her antennae. He was so passionate. The children still have their eyes covered. It's really cute. Soryang was so enthusiastic that he even wanted to touch her fangs. She replied that it was dangerous, but he insisted. It made the blue spot centipede. She's starting to wonder if her daughters are going to be okay with this man. The reason for that is because she knew his touch is anything but ordinary. It's funny and weird how Soryang drools as he caresses her. Cheol's son met Soryang over a cup of tea. He told him that he heard everything from Hwayun, and that is why he'll be treated as their son-in-law. Soryang expressed how he thought he was supposed to wait 3 years. Cheol-san cut him off, saying that the wedding will naturally take place when he had come of age. Soryang tried to clarify that it's not what he meant. Hwayun's mother enthusiastically welcomed Soryang in the family and introduced herself as his son-in-law. Museang was pleased, too. He stated that now Hwayun had found a suitable match. Their clan would prosper even more. Soryang looked at Hwayun. As he wondered what's going on when there's supposed to be conditions for marriage, it made him think that they had probably accepted him without any discussion. He decided to play along for now, and replied that he's looking forward to everyone's guidance. Soryang was puzzled when Museang told Kyasin that they should get started right away. Kallison informed Soryang that before he could learn the Tang clan poison arts, there's something that they must show him. He asked what it was. The elders had a smirk on their faces. Kallison revealed that it's the Hall of 10,000 Poisons. He's certain that it's something that Soryang will absolutely love. They have been waiting for that moment for Soryang as a family member to take his first steps into the Hall of 10,000 Poisons. It's a cherished tradition for the entire family. Soryang called Museang grandfather and expressed that he's looking forward to it. Soryang is excited since he assumed that it's a place where 10,000 kinds of poisons gather. But he saw Hwayun's side face. He couldn't help but be in awe of her beauty. He remembered the saying that beauties are best admired from the side, and currently, it was like a photo shoot that came to life. Soryang blushed. It was funny how he got caught by his in-laws. They had a smirk on their faces. Kallison commented that at that rate, he might wear out his daughter's face. He told him that Hwayun is his woman now, yet he gazes at her so absent-mindedly. Mother-in-law couldn't help but express how Soryang looked like he's completely smitten with Hwayun. Both Hwayun and Soryang turned red. Hwayun tells him to watch where he's walking, and Soryang stutters as he replies yes. A short while later, there were 3 men in front of the large door. 2 men stood proudly while their muscles bulged from their body. They reminded me of Yupin and Ipin. I don't know why. While a man in the Tang clan's robe is at the center, and he welcomes the Grand Patriarch, Museang ordered them to open the gates since he's there to briefly show his grandson-in-law the Hall of 10,000 Poisons. The men obeyed his orders. In his head, Soryang commented how, for something out of the Middle Ages, the security is ridiculously tight. The man in black robe announced to open the gates, and the 2 muscular men grabbed the heavy door and pushed it open. They put all their strength in opening the gigantic door. The man in black robe commented that the gate was opened quicker that day. Soryang was surprised with that reaction. After fully opening the gate, the 2 muscular men looked exhausted. The man in black robe invited them inside. Chizan looked at Soryang briefly. While they were passing through, Soryang was bothered to look at the tired, muscular men. As if to give consolation, Chaosen explained that the Iron Gate is forged from Kunyu steel, sourced from the southern wilderness. Even opening the gate is considered an honor. They have arrived inside. It is the treasure trove where the Tang clan of Sichuan stores all its poisons. It is called the Hall of 10,000 Poisons, for it holds 10,000 poisons. Muziang warned him to be cautious and not touch anything recklessly. Soryang replied that he understands. He also confirmed if it chambers 10,000 poisons. Kielsen shared that the poisons are carefully categorized, such as paralysis poisons, sleep poisons, and many more. These elderly people sure love to tease those too. It was evident when Kielsen asked Hui and to explain it to Soryang, since he knew Soryang would enjoy hearing it from her. The embarrassment was oozing from Huayun and Soryang as they blush. Despite that, Huayun accepted the task. Huayun grabbed Soryang's hand and led him to the strongest poison of the Tang clan. Huayun looked awkward while the elderly adored their interaction. She started pointing at the chi-dissipating poison, the one martial artist fears the most. Once inhaled, it renders energy unusable, so she advised Soryang to be extremely cautious. She pointed out the alimentary canal, necrotizing poison, spirit-destroying poison, bloody pulp poison, and even seven-step soul-snatching poison. She told him that all of them are potent poison, but the Tang clan's strongest poison is something else entirely. She gave him a small seed. Soryang was confused. In his head, he saw it similar to a tiger bean. Huayun explained that it's the most powerful poison in existence, of course, setting aside the venoms of the 10 great venomous creatures. She added that it's a plant that symbolized the Tang clan. It is called the seed of the castor plant. Soryang was puzzled by its castor seed. He thought of ricin, a highly potent toxalbumin. Just 2 milligrams can be lethal to an adult. It is famously used in the umbrella assassination of Bulgarian dissidents during the Cold War. It's a poison 100,000 times stronger than cyanide. Soryang uttered that it's the poison that comes closest to the Tang clan's ideal, colorless, odorless, tasteless, and formless. That is why they have named it the rarest and most precious of all poisons, golden poison. And when it's used to kill someone, they call it a golden death. Huayun told him to take note. The strongest poison isn't the one that inflicts the most agony or causes the most gruesome death. The strongest poison is the one that kills silently, swiftly, and without leaving a trace. She shared that Sichuan Tang clan's poison art strive for the ideal, the stealth and certainty. In Soryang's head, they are comparable to a clan of assassins. Muziang told them that it's enough for now. Muziang invited him to go see the venomous beasts that Soryang has been eager to see. Muziang even offered if Soryang is interested, he could even oversee their care, and that the clan will provide full support for anything he requires. In Soryang's head, the translation is that they will support his hobby. He looked so excited. When they were about to go, the patriarch was immediately called. Pai was panting hard for running fast. They asked him, "What's the matter?" Pai told the patriarch that he needs to head to Black Tortoise Pavilion immediately. The patriarch asked why. Pai was about to say something about the clan elder, but Muziang cut him off with his burst of anger. He asked what those bastards are up to now. Soryang was thinking if they are pertaining to the branch family members that Wei Yin mentioned. Pai informed him that there are 2 issues. First, the medicine they sent to the Sichuan city lord didn't have the desired effect, and he sent back a letter full of complaints. Before Pei reveals the second one, he looked at Soryang first. Soryang sighed. Pei revealed that it was about the Hall of 10,000 Poisons. Muziang anticipated that rumors were already circulating. They decided to leave for now, but not without Muziang ordering Soryang to come with them. At the Black Tortoise Pavilion, the elders noticed the patriarch. They started complaining how he made such a critical decision on his own. They protested him choosing an orphan of unknown origins to pair with their beloved Huayun. That triggered Chiol-san. He didn't like that they said that Soryang is an orphan with unknown origins. Chao-san started emitting a green aura from his body, while asking if they were insulting his son-in-law. The elders of the clan insisted that it's true. Muziang yelled that he's the one who made the decision. He asked if they had a problem with it. The elders of the clan were flustered. The elders asked the Grand Patriarch to talk some sense into the Patriarch. They expressed that entrusting the management of 10,000 poisons to an outsider with unproven abilities is absurd. Museang emphasized that he just said that he approved it himself. While this was happening, Huayan was conscious of Soryang and she whispered an apology to him. In Soryang's head, his initial thought was goodness. He sighed upon realizing that he made her worry. In his head, it's her who should be apologizing. Everyone was surprised when they heard Soryang say, "Excuse me, sorry to interrupt your conversation." Then he started saying that since it's an issue that stems from his lack of ability, he suggested to demonstrate his skills and prove himself to the elders of the clan. The elders were caught off guard. Soryang uttered that he could do that by helping them solve the troublesome issue with the Sichuan city lord. In a hushed tone, Huayan asked him what he's trying to do. Soryang isn't the type to step forward and make a fuss, but if they are disrupting his peaceful pet owner life, then this man won't just let it slide. So that's it, guys. If you want me to continue the series, then like and comment, and I will continue.